every time that images are loaded up into WordPress. WordPress relies on its media settings to determine whether or not smaller size files need to be generated. So for instance, if you were to load up an image whose size was 4,000, WordPress would go to look at its media settings and find that the largest size that it should be holding is 1024, and that there would be a need to be able to create medium-sized files at 300 and thumbnail files at 150. What this means is that if you were to enter hundreds of images onto the site at a size greater than 1024, then potentially you can wind up with 3 times as many files in your folder or Finder, the folder for Finder or Explorer. And that could be an issue when it comes time to doing updates or deletions in files, because you're only expecting a fixed set of files to be there, but WordPress has generated extras. So in this case, what I did is load into the site a maximum size. The files that I've loaded stop at 300. So WordPress will not generate 1024 files. However, it will generate thumbnail files. So what we have in the media library at this point, and what we expect, are 4 images whose dimensions are 300 by something. But if we go over to Explorer or Finder into the folder for the month that you're in, and WordPress will load the images into the most recent month if you have it flagged to organize it that way. Instead of just seeing the 300 sitting in this folder, we now have the files that WordPress generated, 150s. So imagine, if you will, if you had a 4000, you would have the 4000 file, the 1024, the 300, and the 150. Now ramp that up and figure it out by how many images you are going to load into a site, and think of how overloaded this folder would wind up being. But we can control that. We can get this to the point that the only images that ever show up in your Finder or Explorer folder are the ones that you created instead of WordPress. And so we will now shut down WordPress's ability to generate these extraneous files, so that you have total control over what's loaded, stored in the folders for Finder and Explorer, and ultimately will make it easy for you to be able to manage the images. So what we need to do in order to be able to make these changes are 2 things. You want to go into Settings and the Media and wipe out the sizes for thumb, medium, and large, remembering to save your changes. Don't forget to save. Next step is we want to force the Explorer or Finder folder to get cleared out. So we go back up into the media and delete the images that were loaded into WordPress. That will clear out those folders. Now, at this point, as a confirmation step, we will go into Explorer, or you go to Finder depending on whether or not you're Windows or Mac, and you should find the folder is empty. Next step, let's reload the images, and the only thing that should ever wind up inside of your Finder or Explorer folder are the images that you're about to load. We'll also confirm that WordPress's ability to generate extra files has been shut down. So we have to select the files that we're going to do it. Now, my naming convention is that when you have an image, you have the name of the image and you specify a size inside that title. This way it's much easier to pick out the files. making sure you're only picking the 300s. Well, in my case, in your case, you'll know what images you're dealing with. Okay, so now every one of these is loaded. And if we go back to the media library, we'll find our 300s are here. Now, if we now look at Explorer or Finder, we should only be seeing these files. Okay? Now with this, you're in total control of the images. You're in total control of the images that get stored within Finder or Explorer and the images that get loaded up into WordPress. And there'll be no surprises. The only drawback to doing this is that if you're building your site locally, that's one thing. But when you're on your host, you have to have administrative rights so that you have complete control over the files and folders, as well as being able to code within WordPress itself. Now, what we would do with this right now is we go into WordPress itself, and if we would take one of these images and connect it to a page, what you would do is you put a hyperlink inside of the image that calls the other size. So let's say in this case, since we're doing with 300, you wanted to go to 600. If you had a 600, you put a link inside of WordPress for the image on this page that when they click on the image, it now opens that larger size file. The trick here is that the larger size files do not have to be loaded inside of WordPress. The link or the URL that you embed inside of the images that are stored inside of WordPress will take care of finding the other files. So that means the media library list can remain very clean because only the primary images, the images the user would see on the page, are actually going to be stored here. So by turning off WordPress's ability to generate the extra files, to come up with varying sizes, you remain in complete control. This has been how to turn off WordPress ability to create extra size files. Should you have any questions pertaining to this recording, you can contact me, Robert Kohler, at rpacconsulting@gmail.com. Thank you and have a good day.